University of Illinois Extension educators discuss ways to grow, learn, and heal from the effects of hurtful language, holding a racial healing circle program Monday. Designed to offer a space where people can talk about their experiences and how it has made an impact on themselves and others, U of I Extension leaders say the healing circle is a way to start difficult conversations.
Providing community constituents an opportunity to engage in those conversations in a space where everybody is invited and everyone is included, we think is a great step in a way of coming together and, like Gina said, as a collective.